Welcome, NoDQ Galaxy, and we are back with the NoDQ review number 47, and I am Virtue here with the elite team of NoDQ. That consists of myself, Aaron Rift, TJS, and last but not least, Big G. What's up, everyone? And I'm going to start with you, Big G, because you got the Galaxy shirt on that has everybody's name on it.
I'm doing good, enjoying my day off. I've been binge watching American Pie series on Netflix pretty much all day, taking a break now to do this awesome review with you guys tonight.
Well, thank you. TJS, I see your beard is trying to come in. You know, you're getting better every week.
It's not quite at your level, Virtue. I must say, I'm quite envious. But it's storming its ass off currently here in Northeast Arkansas. It was 70 degrees today, going to be 70 degrees tomorrow, and then Friday it's dropping down to 35. So.
Oh wow, Burr! It was -5 here last week.
Oh jeez.
Hey, is it the headquarters of Walmart in Arkansas?
Yeah, Walmart.
Good for you. You guys got something there. Good for you. Aaron Rift, what's up, man?
Not much. I'm doing well. It was a bit cold here in Portland. I brought back some of the snow from Michigan, and yeah, Portland actually got its first snowstorm of the year. But enough of that. We got a lot of topics to cover today. We have Elimination Chamber coming up in a little over a week, so let's go ahead and get to those topics today.
All right, well, let's start with Nicholas. Wait, it's WrestleMania season, and I don't know why I remembered Braun Strowman choosing Nicholas from the crowd as his tag team partner in WrestleMania until I watched Raw this week, Big G, and I saw Braun Strowman help one jobber, Kurt Angle. Did that happen, or did I watch that incorrectly? Was I half sleeping? Did they have Strowman come out and help Angle this week?
Oh yeah, it happened already.
So here's my thought on it. Kurt Angle is Nicholas. I don't know if these guys are going to tag, if Angle's going to fade into the distance, but this is the joke that Strowman has become, where now he's saving Kurt Angle, who should hang him up, at least on TV. He's better than what WWE makes him, portrays him as. So when I see Strowman saving Kurt Angle, who's about to, retire or whatever he was going to say, I think it just reminds me how much of a joke Strowman has become in WWE, going back to last year's WrestleMania. Big G, what's your thoughts on that? Do you think this will be anything good?
I don't think so. I think it was just a one-time thing, hopefully. And I don't know what's going on with Kurt Angle. I don't know. I mean, yeah, you got to put over the younger talent, but not the way that he's doing it. And Strowman just needs to go back to being a dominating heel, but I don't think that's going to happen. And everybody needs to forget about him and Nicholas. And it's just too much, I don't know what else to say.
You don't think it's going to be McIntyre and Corbin feuding with Angle and Strowman?
They could have. They just had the match, and during the match, Strowman had to save Angle again by chokeslamming both of them onto the steel steps, and Kurt Angle could barely stand, and he looked at Strowman. And I hope maybe they'll have another match at Elimination Chamber. Who knows? I don't. It is what it is.
TJS, you kind of look like a young Braun Strowman there. So, what do you think about your future?
Well, I'll just say, I don't know if you guys are Batman fans, but this Braun Strowman or this Kurt Angle story reminds me of an animated film called The Dark Knight Returns, and. It's in it. Batman is just basically too old to do anything, and he struggles to climb. He's out of breath all the time, and this is just what it reminds me of. I'm not sure if this Kurt Angle thing is part of a story, like if he's just putting on these awful matches as part of the writing, but I kind of don't think so. I kind of think that WWE knows that Kurt Angle can't go like he used to, so now they're trying to turn it into a story. I'm not sure why he didn't just retire on Raw. He's a Hall of Famer. He has nothing left to prove, and we're not going to get those dream matches that we were going to, or that we thought we were going to get. As far as Strowman goes, I just remember at WrestleMania, like you said, Virtue, he chose Nicholas. His whole thing was, I don't need a partner. And now this makes like 5 times that he saved someone. He teamed with Finn. He teamed with Kurt Angle. It's just, there are so many plot holes in WWE. And Strowman should have been the guy. He should have been the Universal Champion probably 2 years ago. And now I feel like he's the next Ryback or the next Big Show. I don't see him doing anything now. I feel like he's not beating Brock, that's for sure. So I don't know. I don't know where he goes, but he's a mid-carder. And it seems like he's stuck in the mid-card with Drew McIntyre, who should also be a main eventer. And I don't know why Baron Corbin's even on TV. This guy's been rendered a joke so many times, and he still wears the damn general manager gear.
Well, I mean, he could be on TGI Friday commercials, because every time I see him, I get hungry for Jack Daniel's ribs and steak. So,
hey, don't let Daniel Bryan hear you say that.
Aaron, I think Kurt Angle should have said, and there should have been no angle here or no run-ins. He should have just came out and said, I know I'm not what I used to be. I'm going to give you guys one more match. I'm going to do the best that I can in this match, and it's going to be at WrestleMania. That's going to be my last match, and then they build to whoever it ends up being to face him. Can you imagine the people after that when he does the final curtain call? It could be just a little 10, 15-minute match at Mania, nothing big. That's what they should do with Kurt Angle. Put a good opponent in there for him to put over one last time. But no, they're going to do something weird just to waste TV time. So what do you think, Aaron, on this?
Well, I feel like this storyline right now with Baron Corbin and Drew McIntyre, Braun Strowman, I think that's all just filler right now. I think it's still possible that we could see Kurt Angle in a one-on-one retirement match at WrestleMania. Maybe he faces somebody like Daniel Bryan. I think it would be cool if Kurt Angle could go. That would be an ideal match, but that's a big question mark at this point. But regardless, I feel like WrestleMania should be his last match one way or another, and it should be a singles match. As for Strowman, would not surprise me if he's in some throwaway match again. I think I mentioned this before. I'll mention it again. Maybe he could team with Nicholas again, and the running joke could be every year he teams up with Nicholas as Nicholas grows up, and then before you know it, Nicholas is 18 years old teaming up with Braun Strowman at WrestleMania.
And turns on Strowman because he gets bigger. Well, Aaron, I give you an A for effort with that, but wow. That's how we're talking. Think about it. That's what we're talking about with Braun Strowman.
Yeah, well, remember when we had Pete Rose coming out at WrestleMania, and that was an ongoing thing? Maybe this could be an ongoing joke where Nicholas teams up with him, or at least appears at WrestleMania every year as he grows up. What the hell? Why not?
I wanted to take a bump.
Well, again, it's going to be a while, but that would be interesting, right? Have a kid bump. All right, well, Finn Balor, right? We have to. We're talking about Braun Strowman's character, castrated, neuterized, whatever, neuterized. That's not even a word, but in WWE it would be, and I'd put it in somebody's promo. So the demon logic, okay, TJS. I'm going to start with you. How, if this gimmick is automatic wins for Balor, the big matches, it puts fear into his opponents, whatever the psyche of it, the psychological warfare. Why do they not use it more? And he comes out. And I know WWE's not doing it because they don't want him to be a main player. But the fact that we've seen this gimmick before, but yet we get Fonz Balor, who can't win hardly at all, is that gimmick. But we know he's got this other side that wins. That's awful by WWE for exposing us to the demon early and then turning Balor into the Fonz. Because if any random person watches his product and sees that, they'd be like, why is this guy coming out like this? He loses all the time. You got this great. So what do you think? Is it just his size? He's not a main player in Vince's eyes. So they know they have something with that gimmick, so they just bury it and never show it because he's not going to be anything. What do you think?
Well, I understand why we're not getting the Demon weekly, because that would take the specialness out of it, but there's no reason why he wasn't the Demon at the Rumble. It makes no sense, because he was the Rumble at SummerSlam when he faced Baron Corbin. So you have a Universal title match, and it's like, oh, no, I don't think I'll be the Demon for that. So, but it doesn't make sense, man. Because
and TJS, they could have got out of it. If he came out as a Demon and they didn't want Brock to lose, they could have had Strowman or somebody could have went out there to make that match a no contest. Or you know what I mean? They could have protected it.
Any number of things. But instead, Finn Balor looks like a complete idiot coming out as himself. And it's regular now. And in NXT, he did lose as a Demon against Samoa Joe, but that's not canon to the main roster, I wouldn't say. So I just wish they would give us a storyline reason why he's not the Demon. Like, they could say anything. Finn Balor has to harness so much energy to be the Demon, so he can't be it more than twice a year. Or something like that, instead of just like, he's the Demon when he needs it. He pulls out the Demon when he needs it. You're facing Brock Lesnar for the Universal title in the biggest match of your life, and you don't need to be the Demon. Give me a break. Ridiculous.
And I bring this up because I see him come out every week on Raw as himself, and it's just like, wow. You know, what a time to capitalize, to get fans loving something, knowing that what fans want to see in wrestling today, right? Their indie darlings get pushed. They have something with this guy, and Balor not just being his normal self, and they're not doing anything with it. Aaron? Well, wait. TJS isn't done.
He has to stop the smiling, too. He needs an edge instead of just coming up there. The difference between Ronda Rousey and Finn Balor is that Ronda Rousey can back up her smiling. Finn just looks like a complete geek.
Right. Well, so I think a good idea for Finn Balor would be for him to move to SmackDown when the Superstar Shakeup takes place in April, and maybe tweak his character a little bit. Maybe I've heard different stories. Like, one story is that the makeup takes too long to apply, and that's the excuse why he doesn't do it. But I think Virtue nailed it. I think it's because WWE doesn't want to have the Demon lose, but at the same time, they don't want to push Balor at that main event level. So therefore, we really don't get to see the Demon all that much. I would like to see him go to SmackDown and maybe have a little bit of a makeover with his character. Get rid of the jacket. Maybe wear some kind of makeup, but not go all out with the Demon. Just to change things up a little bit and evolve the character. Him coming out as the Fonz every week, to me it's boring. Drop the smile. Get a little bit more of an edge. And just tweak the character a bit on SmackDown. Give him a fresh start. That's what I would do with him at this point.
So, Big G, before you go, TJS, I don't watch NXT that often, so I forget things. They really had the Demon lose to Joe in NXT. Think about that with Joe. Well, Joe can't win a match on the main roster, but he beats the Demon in NXT. All right, take it, Big G.
Well, just to go on TJS's point, down in NXT, when they did have the TakeOver event, pretty much every TakeOver he would come out as the Demon, but like a different version of the Demon. I think one year he was like Jack the Ripper, stuff like that. And that was interesting. And I could understand the point too. It takes almost 4 hours to put the paint on. So get there a little bit early when it's a big event, like the Royal Rumble. Get there early, get what you need to do, start putting the makeup on, and then...
Well, so Danny DeVito as the Penguin in Batman Returns every day had to get dressed up like that and do the movie.
There you go. And when he's Fonz Balor, the smiling needs to go to. But like I said on Virtue's Rage yesterday, SmackDown's a good choice, Aaron. But I know it'd be a downgrade, but I think he would be better down in NXT UK. He'd be over there with his crowd, with Jordan Devlin and everybody. He could have good feuds. And the takeovers there, we could see him as the Demon. Because
you brought up your potluck topic. Then run with this. This wasn't even in our list. I want you to talk about NXT becoming its own brand. We're going to talk about that.
Okay.
You just brought that up. Now I want to talk about it.
Let me finish. I'm trying to finish my point now. Shit. Okay, so I said NXT UK.
You want Balor in NXT UK.
Yeah. And, damn, I lost my train of thought.
Well,
1 point for Virtue.
The problem with moving Balor to NXT UK, big fish, small pond, I think.
Yeah, but, okay, now I remember what I was going to say. At the takeovers, you could have him as the Demon because the takeovers aren't every single month, like the pay-per-views. But if he stayed on the main roster, have him at least do it on the big four, WrestleMania, Survivor Series, Rumble. And obviously we get him at SummerSlam. So I don't know. Is it like something happens during SummerSlam months that the Demon comes out and then he's the Demon at SummerSlam? I don't know. Maybe.
Well, that's where he won the Universal title, so maybe there's something.
Yeah, he won the
there.
Universal title, and then he wasn't there the year after, I don't think. And then the one time
debate, I love it.
Was TLC when he was supposed to fight Sister Abigail, but it turned out to be AJ Styles instead because Bray was sick, and we still got the Demon though. So I don't know, was WWE like too fucking lazy to say, okay, we're gonna have Finn Balor like this dominant player, but like Virtue said, they don't want him to be a dominant player, the main player. They just want to stick him in the mid card and just leave it at that. So that's
all right, TJ.
That's my thought.
I'll come back to you about the brand thing. TJS, go ahead.
Talking about NXT becoming a brand?
No, the Demon. Or did you already talk about the Demon? Big G was so rampant on that. He was fired up, and I caught him off guard. So, Aaron, let's start with you on this whole NXT brand thing. Do you think WWE should keep portraying this as a developmental, knowing they're getting people from the indies with years of experience, and the fans that watch that product know this, or should they just say, no, forget it. Let's make it its own brand. You have SmackDown, you have Raw, you have NXT. And we can do shake-ups and people can bounce back and forth, but let's not treat this NXT as developmental again. Because I think, like Big G said, some of these main roster people might be better off going back, but if it's developmental, then it's a downgrade, whereas if it's its own brand, it's just shaking things up.
Yeah, but
Aaron?
like you said, it's a niche brand, it appeals to a certain percentage of the audience. It doesn't really appeal to your casual fans. So I would say no. I would say keep it as a developmental brand. It is NXT, which stands for next after all. It's all about the next generation. And, it's about guys that are on the rise. Your young 20 to 25-year-olds, guys like Velveteen Dream that are just getting started in the business. And yeah, you might have guys that have 5-10 years experience, but at the same time, I think it's good to develop the superstars and get them used to being on the big stage, performing in front of 10, 15,000 people at the takeover events. So I would say keep it as a developmental. A third brand just makes it overkill as far as I'm concerned. I mean, quite frankly, I think there's too much as it is. So yeah, I would keep things the way that they are. And if you had NXT as a so-called equal brand, would that mean you would have to make it 2 hours every week, yet another hour of television? For me, that's too much, but that's just my take on it. I'm sure Big G and TJS may have different viewpoints on that.
TJS.
Wow. Aaron, I think that the reason this doesn't appeal to casuals is because it's being marketed as a developmental brand. You have the casuals thinking, wow, this is developmental. It doesn't matter. As if it was a third brand.
I was just going to say, SmackDown is consistently considered to be a better show than Raw, yet the ratings and the TV viewership doesn't reflect that. So, I don't think that really matters all that much. I just think that, NXT is more about wrestling than developing characters and storylines. And I think that's why. I don't think it really has anything to do with it being developmental or not. I think you just watch it, and it's guys that are just going out there and doing the fundamentals. They're just going out there and doing basic stuff. And for some people, they like that better. They like it to be kept simple. But I think for casual fans, they want to see the soap opera. They want to see the over-the-top characters, the larger-than-life characters. They don't want to see a bunch of bland guys going out there and doing flips. Some people do, but it's for a niche audience, like Virtue says.
Well, that's why I think that if you made it a third brand, then it would be something different, like an alternative. So WWE could be competing with themselves, sort of, to where you have Raw and SmackDown, and then you have the third brand that's different. The three brands are different anyway. Raw is different from SmackDown. SmackDown is different from NXT. So if you just said this is the third brand, and you could, bounce guys back and forth like Virtue said, I think that would freshen things up. And, jobbers go to places like 205 Live, like Mike Kanellis moved to 205 Live, and it's a good spot for him. He doesn't get many wins, but I mean, at least he's getting airtime. And I feel like some guys aren't cut out for the main roster, so there should be the third brand. And like Virtue said, instead of moving them to NXT and calling it developmental, like a downgrade, make it a third brand, because Tyler Breeze had a great match with Ricochet, and you see what he's doing on the main roster. Fashion Files.
There's been times Cesaro in the past has went down there and had matches. And I guess when I see NXT and then they do the UK, Big G, I feel like they want to create territories like there used to be back in the day. So I swear, if we end up getting NXT Australia and NXT Japan, then I'm really thinking Triple H is trying to make NXT more of a territorial brand.
That's funny you said. I saw something on Facebook. I can't remember from what, but apparently Triple H is revealing more performance centers around. I don't know if it's going to be around the world, but they're going to have more performance centers.
But I get what Aaron's saying. It's developmental, and in the eyes of the casuals, that's why NXT only drew 800K on USA Network.
Let me ask Aaron. So people like the larger-than-life characters and not these just bland people who do flips. Tell me, who in WWE right now is a larger-than-life character?
Well, I would say Braun Strowman, but they've kind of dropped the ball with him, so there's that. I would say Brock. I would say Balor when he actually does the Demon character, when he's out there as the Fonz. Okay. Definitely no. You can say that about Ronda Rousey. I feel like she has like that larger-than-life presence to her. Some people just have the natural charisma and personality that feels larger than life. You know, as far as the women go, I like Nikki Cross. I think she has some personality and she could be a character, but I feel like they're already dropping the ball on her. There are some people, but there are a lot of...
Drew McIntyre, I think. It's just, of course, he gets shoddy booking, but...
Yeah, all right. I just wanted your guys' opinion because I was thinking, but to me, I don't think NXT is a developmental brand. I think it is its own brand. When they are developing characters. They do have storylines, but not like main roster.
They're more simplified. They're more simplified. And I just wanted to say, I wanted to say NXT is a brand in its own way. It's basically an indie brand. It's WWE's indie brand. You know, they're doing indie wrestling.
Yeah, and NXT UK, I mean, it's still coming up, but that's for the UK fans. You know, that's their fan base. And like Virtue said, eventually we'll probably have NXT Australia and NXT Japan. And
I'll actually pop if that happens. I will, because, Mr. Pro WWE.
Lately, you've been seeing, on NXT UK, you've had some people from NXT being on NXT UK, having matches on there as well. And, same thing, NXT UK guys going to NXT and having matches with them. So I think NXT and NXT UK are like Raw and SmackDown, but it's their own brands. The NXT brand. Even though it's under the WWE moniker, but it's NXT. And as far as, and I always say this, I feel bad for the people who go from NXT to the main roster and then they're never seen from or heard from again.
Right.
Sanity is the biggest one.
Here's the thing. They shouldn't be tweeting from home saying, if they're supposed to be this dark characters, but they're tweeting from home, like, oh, I'm just not being utilized. Like, that to me ruins their gimmick.
Yeah,
I know, but
that's the problem with not having two Twitter accounts.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that's a whole other topic we've covered.
Yeah, but they should have an option if they're not feeling like they're being used properly. Hey, let me go to NXT, or now let me go to NXT UK.
Yeah,
I'll take the downgrade.
You're about to go over your time limit here.
Right,
and I have to move on to the next topic.
Yeah, the problem with that is that you already have a ton of people in NXT, so there's no room. Basically, WWE just has so many people under contract. Yeah, I mean, really, what you would need is like a fourth brand or a fifth brand, and like Virtue said, they're doing all these different NXTs.
One more thing, and then we'll move on to the. All right, so when Fox does move, SmackDown moves to Fox, they could possibly move NXT to FS1 and just make it an hour and a half show. Keep it on a Wednesday though, because then you'll have Raw on Mondays, NXT on Wednesdays, and then if SmackDown goes to Fridays, then your week is balanced out for wrestling. So that's all I'm gonna say.
I think wrestling shows should end at weird times to make it more believable that it's not scripted. Like, you know what I mean? It should end at 47 or 13 past. I don't know. That's just me, though.
Or not necessarily end it early, but like do the main event, end that early, and then maybe do like a series of interviews or something different. But
yeah,
then
like
again,
things are calming down. Yep.
They might be afraid people would tune out at that point, so that's why they don't do that. But I get what you're saying. Like, the show always conveniently ends right at the same time every week. So if it was real life, that wouldn't be the case. So I agree with that.
But I mean, if they're products for 7-year-old kids, they're not going to really think about that.
Past their bedtime. They got to go to bed before 10. That's why the third-hour viewership's so low.
Well, I do want to move on.
But
we do have some hot topics here. I want to move on to this one. Jericho, because I was going to talk about this last week and we ran out of time. Is he taking the right approach on social media by slamming WWE, more or less, and calling out specific people, Brock Lesnar? And what's the likelihood, Aaron, you're going to like this, what's the likelihood that any loyal WWE talent, when their contract expires, they do make a jump just for whatever reason? So, Aaron, I want to start with you. I like what Jericho's doing, right? He knows the game. He knows social media is huge in wrestling. He's talking trash about his former employer, trying to help put over, hey, we got this new thing going on, and it's going to be great. And you know what, Brock, you're fat. And it's funny because Jericho's got a gut. He clearly drinks vodka all the time. He's a rock star. Yet he called Brock fat. He's trying to set up a feud, even though it's probably going to go on deaf ears. So, Aaron, what do you think about that? I love it. And at the same time, I also like the fact, could John Cena end up in AEW one day? It's an opinion. Yes, he could. Hulk Hogan ended up in WCW. That answers that question. It could happen, even if it's 1%. Go ahead, Aaron.
Right. Anybody could end up in AEW, but we have to wait and see what happens first with their debut show and see if they can be consistent with their shows. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting. And going back to that previous topic, with so many people on the roster in WWE, so many people under contract, you're going to have more and more people getting frustrated. Eventually that bubble is going to burst, and you're going to see guys that are jumping to AEW. And I feel like this is great timing for Jericho, the Young Bucks, Cody, to get this new promotion started, because you are going to have a lot of frustrated people. You look at Neville, he quit. You've had other guys that have vented frustrations. Rusev has been upset. And you've had guys that have gone out there on Twitter and have complained about their spots. Which tag team was it? One of the teams, I think it was Sanity, as TGS mentioned earlier. You have guys that are clearly frustrated. So Jericho's just doing what he does best, and that's being a promoter. He's building his brand, and he's building AEW's brand, and he's getting people talking about the AEW brand. And that's what he's doing, and I think he's doing a good job of it so far. I think he knows what he's doing. So,
and he has a history with Lesnar backstage, from what we know. Like when Lesnar busted open Orton, we've had news that Jericho called Lesnar out backstage. So, yeah. It would just be, I'm sick of this everybody's going to AEW thing, because I do want to see it play out. We've talked about that, but you still think, what if one day it gets as big as what WCW used to be, and Hogan went to WCW, turned heel? That was huge. What if a Lesnar got sick of WWE product, or the cons threw so much money at him, Vince finally, because when the thing is, Vince McMahon, when he thinks you're done making him money, he won't give you what you want, right? What if that happens with Cena one day? It happened to Hogan after WrestleMania 9. Vince, for that time, was done with Hogan and Hulkamania. He felt he drew all the money from Hulk. Hulk went to the competitor. It's always possible, and I know it's 2019, and Cena's been a, WWE guy. He's loyal to Vince. If any of these big talents ever have an inkling to go to the competition, Vince will up the ante and they'll accept and stay. I just think that anybody calling anybody out as clickbait for an opinion is BS, when anything is possible in this world. That's the point I wanted to get. TJS, thoughts on this?
Yeah, I just want to say, until AEW has a show, they're a t-shirt company, plain and simple. Second, I I know this isn't on the list, but Undertaker has removed all WWE references. So, do you guys think that maybe Undertaker could end up there? I mean,
I don't think so. I feel like he might be going into the Hall of Fame, and that's maybe why he's downplaying that. But I mean, we'll have to wait and see what's going on with him. That's
anything's possible, but yeah, anything's possible. So you got to have that microscopic percentage chance. But that's the one guy that's been with Vince since 1990.
Yeah,
so
that would be huge. But then again, Undertaker can't really go like he used to. But
he couldn't be Undertaker though. He would be Mark Calloway.
Yeah, so he did, yeah. But anyway, I think Jericho is doing a damn good job, like you guys said. And the difference between Jericho and some of these other unknowns that bash WWE, Jericho's name is already established. He's not like the guys that go to TNA and say, "Oh, that company held me down," blah blah blah. Jericho made it. Okay, he's a rock star. He did great WWE, undisputed champion. Damn good. And now he's going to AEW, and like you guys said, he's one of the best minds in the business, and now he's stirring it up, trying to promote the brand.
Yeah.
Hats off to him as far as I'm concerned. I've got no problem with it. I like it.
All right, Big G. Your turn.
Man, I don't know what else to say. You guys pretty much said everything I was going to say. Jericho is doing a great job doing what he's doing with AEW, promoting it, whatnot, trying to get into Lesnar's face, I guess, if you want to say that. Will we see people from WWE eventually join the AEW? Like we all said, it's possible, but there are other brands out there. I'm not saying they're going to go to Impact, but you got Ring of Honor, you got New Japan, because Lesnar was in New Japan for a while too, so he could go back there too if he wanted to. But
yeah. Big G, I had a question for you, though.
Aren't the Usos contracts coming up, too?
Yeah, that's another thing. I had a question for you. So, if you were running AEW, would you want to bring in all these former WWE guys? Because
hell yeah.
Well, here's the thing.
Hell yes.
You're going to say what I think you're going to say. Go for it.
Yeah, do you want AEW to have this perception that they are basically just WCW 2.0, where they're just bringing in all the old guys from WWE? Do you think that's really good for their brand when they're trying to be an alternative, doing the same thing WCW did? So would you necessarily bring in all these guys? Or would you maybe
for the most point,
be selective?
I probably so the Usos contracts are coming up. So I would definitely bring the Usos in because they would have awesome matches against the Young Bucks. I don't
think they're going though because Roman will keep them there.
Yeah, but if you're frustrated,
Roman,
you're not going to want to stay.
They're going to stay together.
Okay,
yes, they
let me ask you this, Virtue. The job you're doing now, if you were frustrated, but they offered you a shit ton of money, would you stay there or would you go find something else?
I would stay there. Unless that something else offered me more.
I couldn't do that because if something frustrated me at my job, but they offered me more money, I'm like, no.
Everybody's got a price. Sorry, I got to do justice, but yeah. I mean, come on.
But who else? Cena eventually. That's a possibility too. Like you said, maybe he could finally get his heel turn. No.
Heel Cena in AEW.
But yeah, anybody who's frustrated in WWE, I would assume they would jump to AEW because they probably have a little bit more character control. More creative, and hats off to them if they do because they'll finally be happy.
Again, that's all on paper. That's all on paper. This idea that they're going to have more creative control and all this stuff. So again, we got to see how it plays out and see if they can build the brand and keep some consistency with it.
Keep in mind, go ahead, TJS.
It's like you said, Aaron. If they bring in all these WWE guys, it's just going to be like WCW. So I think to make AEW work, it needs to be a big melting pot of guys from different promotions.
Right. I agree on that, and I feel like even if they bring in some WWE guys, which I feel they should, to help establish the brand, the important lesson to learn from WCW is AEW needs to learn how to market and develop their own characters and storylines and not just rely on all those guys. TNA was even worse. WCW did create a few homegrown talents like DDP, The Giant, Goldberg, Sting. So WCW did have some of their own homegrown guys. TNA had virtually none. I mean, they did have AJ and Joe, but those guys never really broke through, past just being guys that appealed to a very limited audience. They didn't really have that mainstream appeal. One could argue they really don't now, because outside of WWE and the wrestling fan base, like, who knows who AJ Styles is? I mean, that's an argument right there. But I think it's important that AEW can develop their own stars and learn how to market their stars and not just rely on the WWE talents.
Yeah,
but definitely bring in some of them.
They could, from the indie wrestling promotions, that aren't really well known, they could snatch people from there and make them, homegrown talent.
So here's the problem. And why I like Aaron's point, you can't, all these disgruntled people in WWE and all the fans that say they should all not renew their contracts and go to AEW. If that happens, there's only going to be so many spots in AEW. Guess what's going to happen there? The same damn thing in WWE. And people are going to get frustrated there because of egos and spots and politics. That's what happens behind the curtain in wrestling, no matter what the company. So, Aaron, I like that. AEW should sprinkle in some names, help them get notoriety, but they should focus on their Hangman Pages and people like that. So,
right.
We'll see. Got to talk about it all the time because that's what the internet wants.
Hey.
All right, let's talk about – go, TJS, go ahead.
Real quick, do you guys think that this means Jericho's not going into the Hall of Fame?
He will eventually.
The Ultimate Warrior went into the Hall of Fame.
And the next,
Jericho
I can see it the next 10 years or something like that, probably.
He'll go. The Warrior's in, so yeah. All right, let's talk about injuries, because I think injuries, again, I don't remember back when I was a kid because you didn't have dirt sheets and we didn't know all the injuries that these guys worked with from show to show. But it just seems like they're at an all-time high because of the style. So here's a question. Do you think they're at an all-time high, or does it just seem like it because of the internet? Because, I mean, Seth Rollins wins the Rumble. He's out right now with an injury. Now, we know Becky's his kayfabe. Who else do we currently have on injured lists?
Sasha Banks.
Sasha Banks. Alexa Bliss just came back. Paige is out. I mean, it's just growing, and I don't ever remember this. And again, the style is different. Like back in the day, they didn't do all this crazy stuff. They worked a wrestling match. It was your cheesy rest hold, your punches and kicks. So if they sprained an ankle or got hurt, chances are they could work. That's why they call it work. The next town, the next night. And if they had to tweak something so they could get through the match, they would do it. But now they're getting concussions. They need surgery, that type of stuff.
Right.
So, Aaron, what do you think, man?
So, I mean, that is definitely one point, the fact that guys are doing a lot more riskier things than they were before. And I think the other thing, too, is guys back in the day, they would be injured. And girls. They would be injured, yet they would still work. And they would work through the injuries. And now WWE is very cautious. If somebody gets hurt, they're taken off TV or they're not put in a in-ring role. They're like Alexa Bliss, where they have the talk show segment. So WWE is not taking any chances with injuries. I think the previous generation, you had talents that would just keep going even if they were injured. Like Steve Austin, when his neck injury happened with Owen Hart, he was back in the ring, way sooner than he should have been, and he kept working. He would get hurt, he would keep working, and eventually he was out of action for like almost a year because of that. It all caught up with him. So yeah, I just think that it's a different era now where WWE is more cautious, and like you said, there's more athleticism now. They're doing more crazier stunts, and that's putting people at more risk for injury. So I think it's a combination of both.
All right, Big G, what do you think about this injury? I don't know if you remember too much back in the day.
No. I remember. I do remember a couple injuries, like big time, at the Austin I remember. And I remember when Triple H tore both his quads, like one at when he was fighting Kurt Angle, I believe, back in 2001, and then the one at New Year's Revolution when he was fighting Team Rated RKO, and then when Vince blew both his quads walking to the ring, you know. But see,
he must have had an intense workout session earlier that day.
And but nowadays, like Aaron said, and like I said yesterday, you know, they want to cater to these fans that want to see insane shit and insane flips and people sacrificing their lives just to make these people happy. Like I said, I don't mind it. You know, every now and then, like in NXT or NXT UK, you run on the main roster with some of the guys like Rollins or stuff, people like that. But don't hurt yourself to the point where you can't wrestle anymore to make us happy. I mean, look at Edge. His career got cut short big time. I think, doesn't Sheamus have the same thing that he had? That I can't remember the.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Is that spinal stenosis or something?
Yeah,
like that?
Spinal stenosis. Yeah. And well, shit. Look at Cesaro. He got catapulted into the ring post, had his teeth pushed up, and now he's got to wear braces in the ring and a mouthpiece. I think Neville had to wear a mouthpiece too because he got his teeth knocked out in NXT at one point, I think. Right. So make us happy, but don't do it to the point where you're not hurting yourselves and you're gonna cost your career and you won't be able to wrestle again.
Yeah, well, I remember Bret Hart's philosophy of making it look as real as possible without anybody actually getting hurt, and I think that should be the goal, is to
not
wrestling. Get hurt. But unfortunately, we're seeing more and more injuries, and Bret Hart would, boast about how he never hurt somebody in 14, 15 years doing the main shows, WWE and WCW. So that's quite an impressive track record, and hats off to Bret, a true professional and just good at his craft,
Yeah.
TJS.
Well, sometimes accidents do happen, and it could be the smallest thing. Like, I remember when Seth Rollins tore his meniscus, his ACL, and his MCL from a sunset flip powerbomb that he'd done 1,000 times. And you got Cesaro getting his teeth knocked out. Very simple spot. He just got a slingshot into the turnbuckle. Nobody would think something like that would go wrong. And some of these injuries I don't feel like are legit. Like, we had Maeve Deltzer talk about AJ Styles' hernia. It's not true because maybe it is, but AJ denied him. And like you said, Becky's injuries kayfabe. We've got Sammy and Kevin on the shelf, and
I forgot about them.
Yeah, I feel like the injuries have been higher before. I believe it was WrestleMania 31 when there were a ton of people injured, and it was just a really rough time.
But I mean, that's still the modern era, though. You know what I mean? But we got injuries back then. Austin, there would be people that were out, but look at Foley. He hardly missed time back then, and all the crap he did.
And it's like Aaron said.
But it finally caught up to him, though.
WWE is a lot more paranoid now than what they used to be because they have to be medically cleared now. And you had Mick Foley get thrown off the damn cell and then finish the match back in, 98?
Yeah.
So, but let me stop you real quick, TJS. Nowadays, though, all sports are, health conscientious. Look at football, Virtue. I mean, I'm throwing a football reference out there, but they are really big on concussions as well.
Well, I understand it, but I don't know if Aaron will.
No.
They are really big on concussions in pretty much every sport. So.
Well, that I know.
And that's why they took away their chair shots to the head. But in return, that makes the product a little bit more boring to me because it's like Aaron said, gut shot, back shot, gut shot, back shot.
Oh, and the guitar to the back? Come on. Awful.
Yeah.
Awful.
Do you guys, I think it was JBL got a really good chair shot once in 2004. I believe he hit Eddie with it, or maybe it was Cena.
It was Eddie.
Yeah, that was ridiculous. And I mean, I get that we're not going to get stuff like that today, but we're still getting thumbtacks sometimes. So it's just really weird. And I think it is the style, too, that's changed. Because if you look at someone like The Miz, I don't remember him ever being injured. And he hardly ever goes to the top rope or does anything fancy. It's just very...
professional wrestler.
Yeah. And I think there should be some athleticism sprinkled in there, but when you got guys doing like 640 moon bombs off the top of the cage or whatever, it gets a little much. And also, there's no off season in WWE, and I think that's a big part too. Because if you get banged up, maybe you can still work, but if you keep wrestling, you're going to aggravate the injury, and eventually it's going to get worse and worse and worse.
Right, and unfortunately, the problem is that you could do an off season, but WWE will always be able to find wrestlers that will work a full-time schedule all year long. And as long as WWE can find people to do that, then that's what they're going to do. They're not going to change their ways, because if one wrestler says, well, I'm not going to wrestle all year, WWE would just find somebody else.
Well, maybe switch it up, like have one brand go for 6 months, and then after WrestleMania season, you watch another brand for 6 months, so the guys can get time off, and eventually you switch the guys from brand to brand. I think that would be cool, but I doubt it'll happen.
Yeah.
Well, good points around. We're going to carry on, but I just, a lot of injuries. It sucks for them. All right, 1 week later, do we now have a better gauge on Dean Ambrose after seeing him on Raw this week? TJS, I'll start with you. I know you just talked, but we know what happened. He came out during the Alexa Bliss segment. EC3 was out there. Pretty witty Dean, borderline babyface again. Pretty much owned that segment, got to a match against EC3, the 1-2-3 on EC3's debut. So can we now confirm that this is probably definitely a shoot?
Well, I don't know about you guys, but Dean looked done to me. Like, he just looked like he was tired of him. And there was a video floating around. It's a compilation of Dean Ambrose just talking about how, when he had that staph infection, almost died. He talks about that, and he talks about how hard it is to go out there all the time and try to please the people. And it's, man, I don't know if maybe this is the start of a feud between him and EC3, because I don't know why they would try to ruin Dean Ambrose's character like this on the way out. But then again, I do. So it's kind of sad to see Dean go, honestly, because just a few years ago he was a major player, and now he's on the decline. I think time's going to tell. Maybe this was just one loss, and maybe he'll get his win back next week. Because they didn't just have EC3 outright squash him. He did lose with a roll-up. So we'll see what happens. But like I said, Dean looked spent. Like, he was finished. So we'll see if they keep him on TV.
Big G, I keep thinking of the Survivor Series, Rollins and Ambrose? The boring chants. I wonder how much that really, because they heard that from management backstage. Somebody had to, and I really think Dean might have lost passion that night. I know the direction of his heel character was difficult for the fans to accept, but the fact that he's been from the Shield, right, pretty valuable piece for WWE for several years, and Seth is over with the fans, and Dean heard boring chants. I wonder if that just said, "Why am I doing this? I need to go away." What do you think?
That might have been the final nail in the coffin for him, in my opinion. I think he is leaving. I don't think this is a work or a shoot or whatever. I think he's done. He's gonna ride out the rest of his WWE career. And like I said yesterday, if I was him, if I knew I wasn't all interested in doing this anymore, I would have stayed home. I wouldn't have come back, the week before SummerSlam. Hey, I'm going to ride out the rest of my contract. I'm leaving after WrestleMania. I'm done with you. I'm bored with my character. I'm frustrated. I'm not coming back. But, I think he's going to play it out, but they're going to make him this complete joke for the rest of his time in WWE, and maybe his final match at WrestleMania will be with EC3. I don't know.
Or Nia Jax, jobbing to Nia Jax. That would be the worst. If they did that and he was a professional and went through with it on the big stage, I don't think he would ever come back to WWE.
Hey, that was
for a while.
Of the big pop that he got before SummerSlam, everyone was speculating that he would be back, and then when Seth was like, I've got a lunatic in my corner, the huge pop that Dean got, and the guy he looked to be in the best shape of his life and everything, and now I really feel like he didn't want to turn heel.
I don't think so either.
I feel like it was forced on him, honestly, and he had no say because, I mean, the Roman thing wasn't scripted.
That was a curveball for sure. Absolutely.
Well, see, I think he needed the heel turn just because he was getting a bit stale. But like you said, TGS, he was getting a great reaction. So when you do turn him heel, you need to do it the right way because otherwise, if it flops, it's hard for him to go back to just being a babyface again. You know, you did such a drastic heel turn, having him come out there and attack Rollins right after Rollins, and was crying because of what happened with Roman Reigns. That was a big deal, and it should have been huge. Ambrose should have been a top heel, and there should have been a lot more momentum from that, and it cooled off very quickly. WWE dropped the ball. Creatively, it just didn't go in the direction that it needed to go in as far as I'm concerned. And yeah, if I was him, I'd be frustrated too, and I don't know what this means for him moving forward. Of course, the AEW stuff, we always go back to that. I know people love us talking about that, but who knows what he's going to do? It's hard to say. He may just take a break. Maybe Samoa Joe is right. Maybe Rollins is going to be sitting at home and living off of his wife for several years. Who knows?
You mean Ambrose?
Yeah.
Hey,
yeah. You said Rollins, I think.
Oh, I meant Ambrose if I said Rollins.
Yeah.
There's the picture of Dean Ambrose standing in the middle of the ring while Roman and Seth are both holding up titles, and Dean just sitting there with his hands in his pockets. I mean, pictures worth 1,000 words.
You know when I talked about Dean hearing the booze, and maybe that's when he decided this. I'm not coming back. I need to take a break. The Stone Cold podcast. I mean, he really hasn't been the same since then. He was like, because I think he was put in a position to Stone Cold was prying, and I don't think Dean Ambrose is a guy that likes to tell all that stuff. I think he likes to keep his shoot stuff private, and he was a WWE champion then, and I think he was put in that spot, and it was just very awkward, and it came across bad, and I think management just kind of looked at Ambrose after that as, oh, you're mid-carder, upper mid-carder, but maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, I feel that's a very valid point, too. I feel like that may be...
I'm going to have to go back and watch that again because it's been a while.
Yeah, literally, it was just very, very weird. And you almost thought, there's no way this is a work. Austin's pressing his buttons, and he does not want to be there answering these questions. So, interesting. All right, couple weeks since the Royal Rumble. The SmackDown Women's Champion is Asuka, and the only time she's been on SmackDown was a video package. So, my theory is it's cooling down period because they're featuring this Becky story, which we're going to talk about very shortly, and they want people to forget Becky tapped to Asuka. It's the only reason you have your champion off TV, right? I mean, it's nuts. Like I said, I wouldn't have even put Becky in that match at Rumble. I would have just said she's in the Women's Royal Rumble. I wouldn't have done that whole weird booking. I get why they did it for drama purposes, but the fact that she tapped and now, and some people, obviously she wants Ronda, but why would you not want to go back and challenge the person to beat you to prove that you can beat them? So that's why it was weird with Asuka making Becky tap, and I think they're keeping Asuka off TV because they don't want people to, that's who made Becky tap because Becky's the new hero. So, Big G, what do you think, man? I just think that it's weird. It's typical WWE, I think, not thinking things out like they used to when they had the right creative team.
Well, I agree with you on that they shouldn't have put Becky in there with Asuka at the Royal Rumble. And if they did have a rematch, maybe not for the title, just have it on SmackDown and have Becky get her win back. Possibly.
I don't think you could do it without the title on the line.
Think about it. You got to think about it. I didn't think about it until earlier today. At Elimination Chamber, you're having the women's tag team titles. So who are you going to have Asuka face at Elimination Chamber? They're not going to have Asuka just stand out there and fight herself at Elimination Chamber.
Probably
they don't have any creatively storyline. They don't have anybody for Asuka to face at Elimination Chamber.
Well, but
once Elimination Chamber is over with, then they'll bring back Asuka out and have her focused on her opponent for Fastlane and then WrestleMania.
But
That's what
it's bullshit that because Asuka's the champ, right? They had her beat Becky clean to a tap, but because Becky's the big story, they're crapping on their title. They're crapping on the person that has the title, and that's just classic WWE. Just they don't think things out. It's awful. That's awful.
You know what? They do have Charlotte, but I don't know if they want to do the whole Charlotte and Asuka thing again at Elimination Chamber.
Well, that should be WrestleMania, quite frankly. It should be it should be that match and then have Becky one-on-one with Ronda Rousey at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Aaron. Talk about Asuka being the champ, but yet in Becky's shadow.
Well, I mean, it's just a matter of the fact that SmackDown is the B show, and Asuka is the champion on the B show, and that's why she's going to be secondary, and Becky is going to be part of the main storyline. Charlotte's probably going to be part of the main storyline too. They're going to maybe do a triple threat. But yeah, I think Charlotte versus Asuka WrestleMania rematch from the previous year. Asuka tries to get her redemption. I think that's a good match. It's still going to be secondary to the Raw title match, but at least it'll be something. What else do you do with Asuka? Like if you put her in there with anybody else, it's going to be even more of a throwaway match. You know, at least with Charlotte, I feel like it'll get a good spot on the pay-per-view and it'll get a good amount of time. Who else could Asuka potentially face? I mean, TGS, looking at the rest of the SmackDown roster, who could possibly face Asuka that would make the match important enough to where it would be positioned high on the card?
There's not anyone. And what I'm not understanding is Charlotte came out and cut a promo and said that she wants Ronda Rousey at WrestleMania. I'm sorry, aren't you on SmackDown Live, Charlotte? Shouldn't you want the SmackDown Women's title? Why do you want the Raw Women's title? You beat Asuka last year at WrestleMania, so logically, wouldn't you say, yeah, I beat you once, Asuka, I'm going to beat you again? Instead of facing Ronda, who you can't beat, who you didn't beat, who you had to get yourself disqualified against, it just doesn't make any sense in kayfabe. And I don't think it's going to – I think it's going to be a triple threat. I don't think Charlotte's going to face Asuka, because if she was – there wouldn't have been the whole segment with Becky and Charlotte and Triple H. So
I mean, yeah, basically what we got is Charlotte is going to be the Rock to Becky Lynch's Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yeah, and that's and another thing about it is I don't think that Becky tapping out to Asuka matters because she just won the Rumble. It doesn't make a damn if she lost in 2 seconds. She won the Royal Rumble. That puts you at the top of the card right there.
Right.
If you lost before that, that's fine. It's just like cashing in Money in the Bank. You can lose your whole way and then just cash in, and then bam, you're right back at the top. So that's how I feel about it.
Well, we'll see. Any other final thoughts before we move to the hot topic, the debate, the main event?
Don't think so.
All right. Where's Michael Buffer so he can do his little thing? Anybody want to do the Michael Buffer right now?
Yeah, but do we have to pay him?
Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages.
Yeah,
Wait, you're doing Road Dogg.
Yeah, and I think you have to pay just to imitate Michael Buffer.
Seriously?
Wow, so if we did it, you'd be
ladies and gentlemen, that's where Road Dogg got it from.
All right, let's just start.
For the main event.
Main event is Becky Lynch, the man, more like Stone Cold Steve Austin, which that's all of I've heard for the last several months, or I claim CM Punk, and I've actually heard someone else argue Daniel Bryan, so I'm going to throw his name in the mix. And I think Charlotte's going to be the key. I think of the National Treasure movie. The key lies with Charlotte, right? People are going to love, and I'm going to tell you why. So Aaron he thinks that the storyline purpose, Becky's knee injury, Austin had the neck injury, confronting different forms of management. There are elements of 97, 98 Austin in this storyline. Absolutely. I am not denying that. But Stone Cold Steve Austin made all those management people, Vince McMahon especially, afraid of him. When they heard that glass break, Vince gulped. Nobody's afraid of Becky. Nobody. Even though she's sucker punching him and doing this, management is belittling Becky Lynch, the character, the man. So to me, that reminds me of CM Punk, how Triple H, the COO, You're another spoke on the wheel. Daniel Bryan, you're a B-plus player. That's why I feel when I see Becky and how the internet community is resonating towards her. Back then, it was just as the internet boom was starting with Austin, so the crowd liking Austin felt more organic. Today, it seems like it's internet fans that love Becky for the most part. But the reason why I say the key lies in Charlotte, Stone Cold didn't go to WrestleMania to fight in triple threat matches. He wrestled Bret Hart. He wrestled Shawn Michaels one-on-one. The Rock twice. Scott Hall one-on-one. The Rock again. Okay? If Becky Lynch is in a triple threat match at WrestleMania, she is nowhere close to being Stone Cold Steve Austin. She is exactly that Daniel Bryan WrestleMania 30 triple threat against Batista and Orton, or CM Punk, who never made it to the main event. So I'll save Aaron for last because I know he's got a lot to say. TJS, I'm going to start with you. I think Becky is more like CM Punk, Daniel Bryan, and a little bit of the storyline, you can say Austin.
Well, is Becky filling Vince McMahon's limo with concrete or spraying people with a beer truck?
They were all afraid of Austin. They're not afraid of Becky.
And, yeah, I mean, man, Virtue, I mean, I think that you're right here. It seems like more CM Punk than anything because you had management belittling him, on the mic. And it's like you said, no one's afraid of Becky because if it was Austin coming in through the crowd like on SmackDown like Becky did, they would have ran.
And I like Becky. Like, me and Aaron were talking about Becky when she was getting booked crappy matches. And we were like, man, she's over. They need to do something with her.
Right.
So my passion here is I don't want her to be Stone Cold. I don't want her to be Punk or Bryan, but yet we have to talk about this. I want her to be Becky Lynch, and they're screwing it up in my opinion.
Well, I think they're doing a good job. I think that I want Becky and Ronda to main event WrestleMania, and they're really pushing her strong, which shocks me. I didn't expect her to show up on SmackDown. She sucker punched or she slapped Triple H, and these segments are drawing big YouTube numbers. Over 1 million views on both the Stephanie one and the Triple H one. But I feel like if Becky was more Austin, then she wouldn't have just slapped Triple H. She would have beat the crap out of him.
Right.
Put him in the disarm.
And she leaves. When did Austin just leave? He had to be taken out by police, but he fought every bitter way to the end until it took a bunch of police or something.
Okay. I do want to say something. So I feel it is like Steve Austin. They're trying to recreate Austin's 97 success with Becky. However, their writing sucks, and it's very watered down, and that's why it doesn't come off like the Austin 97 character. I think it's just bad writing overall. Her walking away like that is stupid. And even CM Punk, I don't think, would do something like that when he was a face. Like, CM Punk would stand up to them and would be defiant. Becky's kind of like a watered-down defiant where she slaps him and then she walks away. She should have just beaten the crap out of Triple H. I mean, I think that was definitely a misstep. Maybe Triple H cannot take bumps yet because of his injury. Who knows what's going on? Or maybe it's just his ego. Stephanie's ego, Triple H's ego, they cannot look weak on television. Whereas in 97, Vince was totally fine selling the stunner for Austin and letting everybody get beat up by Steve Austin, where now Stephanie and Triple H have to look strong and they can't show too much weakness. So that's kind of how I see it. And I feel like with Becky Lynch, like if she was going to be CM Punk, she would be dropping more pipe bombs and saying stuff, breaking the fourth wall. That was CM Punk's thing.
Well, she's trying to on Twitter. It's just not she's not doing it on TV.
I wish they would. Like the stuff she says on Twitter, that's entertaining stuff. Say it on TV. We don't get enough
Remember
of that.
my line about Jacksonville? Could you imagine Becky Lynch telling Stephanie, well, you better not suspend me or I'm going to limp because of her knee. I'm going to limp all the way to Jacksonville. They need to acknowledge this, to get the
Yeah.
Oh, God, that would be such a good line.
Right, and even, remember when Cena referenced TNA? Like, he said that he could pack up his things and go to another TV show, brother?
Yeah.
That was on Raw. That was during the CM Punk storyline. So, yeah, I agree with you. That would have been a great line. Would have made perfect, logical sense. Probably a lot of casual fans would not get the reference, but the hardcore fans would eat it up. So,
Aaron, Aaron, you made the point of the segment with Becky and Stephanie being like the segment with Vince and Austin, where he was telling them to listen to reason and everything. You're right about that, man. It was a complete clone of it. Throughout the whole segment, Stephanie was like, come on, Becky, just see the doctor. And Vince, the whole time, he's like, we care about you here at the WWF. We don't want you to be hurt. And then you get the stunner, and then you get Becky beating her up. But like you said, it's watered down because Stephanie pushed Becky off of her. So
and hurt her further. That would never have happened with Austin.
Yeah, Stone Cold.
Big G, I know you're waiting to chime in on this. And like I said, the key lies in Charlotte. The answer lies in Charlotte because Stone Cold would have never went to Mania to be in a triple threat. So that, to me, if Becky and Ronda happen one-on-one and goes on last, I will say, okay, the Stone Cold philosophy now kind of came together.
And Virtue.
If that doesn't happen, I'm going to say, told you so.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Yeah, Virtue, the other thing that Becky said on SmackDown is she said she doesn't trust anybody, which is the same thing Austin always said, don't trust anybody. So that's the same parallel right there. But anyways,
Triple H also used the word martyr, and that was the big word that went around with CM Punk back in the day. Yeah, saying.
I mean, yeah, you could definitely, and I do like the idea of having layers with Becky Lynch, not necessarily just copying one guy, like, take a little bit from Austin, take a little bit from CM Punk, take a little bit from Daniel Bryan, and then make her own character. But yeah, I saw too much of Austin on that Raw episode.
You know what? If they should have made Becky portray anybody, and Big G, I know you're sitting around in the batter's box here. It should have been probably what Michaels was like in the 90s backstage. We never really got to see it. We only heard how Michaels got away with whatever he wanted with Vince. Somebody that was around that scene back then and Michaels could be involved with this too. They should have made Becky's on-screen character like Michaels' backstage character in the 90s. That would be different. We never got to see that necessarily. So we wouldn't be saying Austin, Punk, Bryan. It could be this whole new, this is you, Becky. Because Michaels, I guess, backstage was one of the biggest egotistical politician a-holes. I'm not wrestling Vader. I'm not putting mankind over this or that. Man.
I really like that idea, Virtue. You could have Becky come out there like, I do whatever the hell I want, Vince. If you want to fire me, then these people are just going to chant my name anyway. Everyone's going to be talking about me.
And Becky could do a super kick, too.
Yeah, I saw Paul Heyman come where he was like, Vince couldn't have fired Brock Lesnar. He just couldn't have because everyone in the world would be talking about it. So I think, I really like the idea of Becky going off script or whatever, and then coming out there doing shoot promos, and that would make her different from Austin. I like it.
Big G.
Man, finally. Damn. Well, to begin, I am sick and tired of people comparing Becky to Austin, CM Punk, even Daniel Bryan, and they need creative writing needs to get their head out of Vince's ass, come up with a completely new character for Becky, and stop making all these references to Stone Cold and CM Punk, saying martyr and saying you don't trust anybody. Let Becky be on her own person, and people would cheer for her. It's organic as it is already, but it could even be even bigger than Stone Cold. It could be bigger than The Rock. It could be bigger than CM Punk.
But do you remember what Becky's character was before? She just made puns and talked about fire.
But, okay, like I said, make it a new Becky. Give her a little bit of an edge, but like Becky style, you know? Use
what she does on Twitter. What she does on Twitter, but put it on television.
Exactly. Use that. But just stop. Stone Cold is in the past. CM Punk doesn't even exist anymore.
Oh. Phil Brooks. Okay, yeah, you're right. Phil Brooks.
You know, it's just so frustrating. Like I said, they need to get their head out of Vince's ass and come up with something different, original,
right?
And stop.
They don't have the creative team to do it.
Right. See,
I would be very. Go ahead, Aaron.
I was just gonna say, I feel like she was organic before, but now it's starting to feel forced, and that's the problem with the WWE writing. I'm wondering what I'm going to put for the headline of this video. Should I say WWE ruining Becky Lynch's character, ? And then people on Twitter say, this ain't it, Chief. And then they'll say, delete this and unfollow me, unfollow, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, they say that, but they come back for more. They thrive off of that.
And, Big G, to touch up on what you were saying, I think that the problem is that the writers, Vince and the writers, saw that Austin's character was a big draw. Punk's character was a big draw. So they're afraid to take chances, and they're just trying to replicate the past success. That's the problem with WWE altogether.
Good point.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, to me, the biggest argument was I get the Stone Cold references, but I guess because we're more recent to like the CM Punk era and the way the fans reacted to CM Punk and to Daniel Bryan, hey, it's our Ring of Honor boys getting pushed in the main event of WWE, yay. We're back in the day when Austin got over. It was his fans loving, they hated their jobs in real life. They loved seeing a character go against his boss. So there's layers that they're trying to do. Big G, I like what you said. Becky Lynch should be the next Becky Lynch, not Stone Cold, not CM Punk, not Daniel Bryan. But the problem is WWE doesn't have anybody that that realizes that. They don't. Yeah. And this is where I'm going to bring it up like I do time and time again. I don't know if 2019 Vince Russo could help Becky Lynch's character if he worked for them, but could you imagine 1997-98 Vince Russo? Becky Lynch, if it, translate that to today, Becky Lynch would be the next Becky Lynch. You know what I mean? Because back then, great writing helped. I didn't say made. Helped Stone Cold's character get platformed. Helped The Rock, right? Helped Mick Foley. They started Foley with the Three Faces of Foley, a transition off of Mankind. Then he became, Mick Foley at some point to win the WWF Championship because it was great creative that knew how to help the talents and expose the best part attributes of each one of them. They don't have that today in WWE. They don't have the right creative team. They're always hiring. There's always something on LinkedIn or whatever trying to hire writers. That's because everyone they've hired suck.
Pretty much.
So that's all I got. And we will probably get a lot of talk in the comments for this, especially from you, Noah. He always puts about 10 or 15 in a row there. So we're looking forward to that. That's all I got. Let's go around and do our plugs. Big G, I'll start with you.
NoDQ.com/Big G takes you to my Twitter page. And I looked. Apparently, TJS has 282 followers to my 222 followers.
Ooh, we got a war. Let's get that closer.
So that's that. NoDQ_Big G on Instagram. Jeff Feltall on Facebook. NoDQ.com/shirts. Everybody's got a shirt on today. I'm wearing the NoDQ.com Galaxy shirt, NoDQ Review, NoDQ Video, NoDQ.com. And that's it for the Big G. TJS, take it away, buddy.
NoDQ.com/TJS takes to my Facebook page. Add me there. I posted some fan art that Kayfabe Candy Ass drew, and a lot of people are saying that I look like Jack Black, Braun Strowman, and Samwell Tarly from Game of Thrones. So you go there. I've got the 4 pictures. See for yourself. And for Twitter, at NoDQ_TJS, follow me there. Sometimes I live tweet because wrestling's boring sometimes, and I feel like looking at my phone instead of watching the product. And like I say every week, NoDQ.com, discuss section, comments, interact there. There's a lot of discussion going on there. So,
all right. Well, it's a pleasure to be on with the Bearded Bandits today, as always. I guess that's our new name for you guys, the Bearded Bandits. How about that? All right, so I do want to plug Wrestling Trivia Challenge, the season finale with Greg and Mark. That will be going up Friday. We will be doing a YouTube live premiere at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific time. So make sure you guys tune in, watch live to catch this epic showdown between the Wrestling Trivia Challenge champion and the winner of the tournament. And we will be there. Many of us will be in there. I'll be there. Caitlin will be there. I'm sure Virtue will be there. Big G, TJS, Greg will be there. Mark will be there. So we're going to have pretty much almost the entire NoDQ team in the chat room for that. So come join us for a great chat. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm sure Noah will be there too. Simple as that. We're going to have a lot of fun. It's going to be a fun time. 10 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Pacific this Friday. Wrestling Trivia Challenge season finale. And that's all I got.
In my challenge to the entire NoDQ galaxy, watch that. Make it the most viewed Wrestling Trivia Challenge video of all time, because I'm currently in that spot with the debut where Jeff Meacham kicked my ass, and I don't want to be in that spot anymore. So make this video the best WTC. Is that what it would be? WTC?
Yep.
Episode of all time. So that's all I got. I am Virtue. You can follow me on Twitter at NoDQ_Virtue. Also NoDQ.com/Virtue. And that's it. So we will see you next week. So for Big G, for TJS, and for Aaron Rift, see you next time.